Hello, everybody. Welcome. So glad there's a good turnout tonight. It's wonderful. Call this meeting of the Shoreham Town Council to order. Today is Thursday, March 26, 2026. It is 7 p.m. and we're going to pick up where we left off last night with recreation. Okay, Mona?
All right. I'm going to let Dave speak in a second. I'll just touch briefly on what we have here. So we have a 13% increase. A lot of that kind of has to do with some adjustments related to, wait, sorry, look at, I'm at the, totally, yeah, I'm on the wrong page. I'm looking at Harbor. Sorry about that. This is better. 5% increase for proposed in the reclamation.
You should have just walked out. You would have been ahead of the game.
And a lot of that change is, aside from the wages and benefits, is the just some of the maintenance items, particularly Heinz Field. Just some adjustments to bring us up to what we're seeing for actuals over the last couple of years. So I'm gonna let Dave take the lead and then I'll take any questions.
One of the things I did want to point out was the under wages for Fred Benson Town Beach. We've increased the wage. That's really to come in line with realities. It's expensive in order to get lifeguards out here and the like. It's hard to hire. We have to offer competitive wages, especially with the mainland.
What are lifeguards making now?
Well, through us?
Yeah.
18 to 22 an hour. The state average is about 19.
Yep.
There's a disparity, but a lot of places are offering signing bonuses and certain things to incentivize. So,
Sure.
So that's what you'll see in there is under Fred Benson wages. If you look under an increase in other program expenses, of the increase of $4,000, that's a little misleading. It's increase in $4,000 is for a program of the water aerobics exercise program that we ran the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're using that money to pay the instructors and for equipment. That brings in money. It brings in revenue. So last year it brought in about $4,800 in revenue. So that offsets it. It pays for itself. It's not a true loser. The other thing is Heinz Field maintenance. That's kind of the reality is that mowing and care is all going up. Mowing expenses especially are getting higher as we speak. So that's in there to reflect those costs. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about anything.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, Dave, on the wages, does that just reflect does that just reflect the increase, or does it also include any additional time?
It's really hard to gauge time with lifeguards and the like, because some lifeguards, last couple of years, I had 3 or 4 lifeguards that ended up staying the entire season. Other times I'll have lifeguards and the majority of them leave for school by mid-August. So it's difficult to gauge. So again, I have to plan for not the worst case scenario, but the fact that if we have every lifeguard at a highest step for the entire season, that's what that reflects more than anything.
So this will reflect optimally if someone could stay from the beginning to the end.
Exactly. What tends to end up happening is I'll lose 3 or 4 lifeguards. I'll have a few that will stay, but they're compensated with overtime if they spend, they work extra hours to maintain the level that we want to have at the beach.
What is the staff size for that number?
I hire 7 lifeguards. I have 3 rental personnel and 2 part-time, 2 beach house managers. One is 40 hours, the other's 26 hours. So
are they also hourly, the managers?
Yes. Yeah.
And on the Ball O'Brien maintenance, it's kind of going up and down and so forth.
Right. So that doesn't have the same kind of history that we have with Heinz Field as far as being able to get an idea of of the cost year to year and how they may fluctuate. We really just adjusted that to bring it closer to what we're looking at for this year, and then also what we ended at year end, fiscal year 25.
The highest maintenance for that is the paying the cleaning crews for the bathrooms. And we've done our best to open as early as we can and keep those bathrooms open as late as we can to help. There's a lot of families who go there for a long, all the way through the season. So trying to keep that open at least until through Thanksgiving or maybe even into December based on weather. We're trying to go as long as we possibly can and provide that service for as long as we can. And that's reflective a lot in the cost of the cleaning of the bathrooms.
You're comfortable that that decrease of the 5,000 is going to, because I mean, as you have now, I guess you spent 12,000.
Yeah.
For the date. I just want to make sure we're not cutting it.
No,
short.
I'm comfortable with that. That's definitely, you look at previously it was, 12, 14,000. We're trying to be conservative at it and with that 20,000 and I think that will be fine. I'm comfortable with it, definitely.
But your 12,000, that only includes up till the first of this year, right? So you still have the spring to go with that. So that number should,
Yeah, it's going to go,
yeah.
but again, it won't be, it won't be in season cleaning,
We always project out the numbers too, so we'll look at that year end and
Right.
we're at 131, and then get a tally of what the normal expenses we see coming in for the rest of the year and make sure that number makes sense.
So Dave, I just, I don't have any real budget questions, but I did want to say, for both of you guys, what an extraordinary job you do.
Thank you.
And I'm seeing it more every day. Everything's personal, everything's local. I see what my grandchildren are
Hmm.
deriving from those programs and how you treat all those kids, and how you accommodate them and make things fun. And to me, that's an essential part of the kids who we want to grow up and have a life here, learning to love the place. And I really appreciate the job both of you guys do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Dave, you want to share your,
Should I?
yeah. you might as well.
We just found out recently that we have received the Rhode Island Green Space Grant for the pickleball courts of $100,000.
Fantastic.
So that was kind of hush hush until it was fully announced, but I guess it was released today or yesterday. I don't know. when it was.
Congratulations.
So we'll be adding pickleball courts to Ball O'Brien.
Wow, that's great.
Dave, can I ask you one last question on the field maintenance? Yeah, I know that like that turf, they come over and they do the once or twice a year, something like that. Does that include that and the mowing?
Yes. One of the things that I project is because the school is not fielding a softball or a baseball teams this year. There's going to be less maintenance on the baseball. I maintain the softball field year round because we do a softball program in the summertime, but the baseball diamond will be maintained. We have a new tractor with the with the road crew. I've got a tractor for plowing the sidewalks, and in the summer it's going to be used at Heinz Field to help maintain those skins they're called. But it's not going to be, so their maintenance won't be as high as far as cost
So
from.
where is the big, I mean, it's 33% increase. Where is the big, is it in the actual mowing itself, or is it that one time, where's the big jump?
I think in mowing mostly, and it's still trying to catch up to realities of they keep going up, and they've been out to bid, and
Right.
you don't know what you're going to get from the lowest bidder, and so that's the reality of it, is that we're trying to catch up more or less to the actual cost of the mowing, trying to reflect more in reality. But the big jump is in the mowing costs. But I will say that whenever we get visiting teams out to the island, we get a lot of compliments on that field. It's a spectacular field. It's maintained really well and cut really well. And I think that the company that maintains or fertilizes it and the mowing it's done is exemplary. So we are getting what we pay for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Kristen, you good?
Fertilizing that field.
Now we just got to get the geese away from it. They're fertilizing it.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks. And again, thanks for holding over. Really appreciate that. Mona,
So I don't remember touching on Public Works last night.
we did
I
not.
forget it? Okay. Don't see Mike, so I'll just go over that. So that is going to be page 15. So one of the changes to point out would just be the, you see the -8% change for wages other, that's just the staffing mix kind of changed. It went from 4 full-time and 1 vacant last year to this year being 3 full-time, still 1 vacant, but they're also working with a part-time. And we had some employees who had been there quite a while. They were at the higher pay rates. And so we have some new people starting at a lower pay rate, and that's kind of what has accounted for that overall adjustment.
But we have budgeted for that vacant position that you're still trying to fill.
Right, now let me just check this real quick. Yes, that is true.
Good. Yeah, I really worry about the grind on those guys in the summer and fall.
So we had been talking about, and you've heard us say before, sort of holding off on that, filling that vacancy because of what's in flux with the state. They've really decided in highways that they cannot wait with
Yeah.
spring coming. And so
Yeah.
you'll see that advertisement
Great.
within the next week. If anyone is interested or knows someone, they're really looking for some additional help.
Right.
But either way with the state, we still need that body. So,
Yeah,
Right now, yes. Yeah.
I know that's true, Bill.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's wise to
Yeah.
advertise it.
Other notable changes would be we reduced the consultant engineer total by about $5,000, 20%. That's just really based on expected use and projects that we'd be using the engineer for, and the amount of grant funding that may otherwise cover his services. So they're going to plan to purchase 2 new mowers right after the new fiscal year. So that's leading to the increase in the equipment line,
Mm-hmm.
very slight, so still funding it at a total of 26,000. And let's see, going back to Thomas property, we reduced that by 5,000, so we have full occupancy there. All those units, and so what happens is that's going to remove some of the utilities from our plate. We had been covering those, and while the utilities obviously have gone up, there's still some kind of baseline utility bills that were being paid that are now covered by the tenants. And also do expect to have some lower maintenance costs with the new building.
Mona, on the gasoline, I know we have it at 20, it's pretty close to what it was last year.
Mhm.
Do we have anything built in for what reality is right now?
We
Are you-
did not
are
add
you
anything
concerned?
extra
Yeah.
for the current state of affairs.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to understand. I don't know whether we've lived through this kind of a spike in gasoline. I'm sure we have. And is it how do you deal with it?
We typically don't overreact. And it may be that sitting here next year, we do have to make some adjustments,
Sure.
but we tend not to go to the ceiling and instead sort of work on a long-term average. And so that also means that in August, we may be identifying that all of our fuel lines are going to be over by 20%. And
Mhm.
that's something we'll have to accommodate as we
Right.
go. But we've been reluctant in this community to create that capacity in advance.
Sure.
And sort of keep a pulse on it throughout the year and adjust where we can.
Yeah, and I think that, I think between the Harbors Department also, it's another big one.
Yeah.
And so forth. And I like the idea of how you do it by not inflating it here and then, but I do think at some point in the budget, whether it's contingency or whatever it might be, that we have a way that it doesn't impact the other items in the budget.
Spoken like a man who may have filled his truck up with gas this week.
Oh, yeah. And Mona, can you, give an idea what the maintenance, the facilities in the building, how that breaks down? What type of things does that go to?
Sure.
The 110 and the 55?
Mhm. So that's going to be some of like general maintenance around town, multiple facilities. Pest control, for instance, including at the town hall and the police and the fire. That does take some of the expenses that they don't account for separately and within their own department budget. I'm just going to check out the ledger here. A lot of times that can be also garbage and just general maintenance around all buildings. So not specifically to the highways department or,
Right. It's 110. I'm not questioning the amount that's there, but
Oh, you-
if maybe at our next, on the maintenance facilities,
oh,
right?
facilities. Okay, I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about buildings.
Actually both,
Just
that's
total,
66,000. Just if we could, and we don't have to have right here, maybe at our next meeting, if there could be a little bit of a breakdown to kind of how that, what that goes to. I don't mean down to the nickel, but just a general idea, because I don't want people to think that we're getting $55,000 worth of rat poison.
Yes, of course. Yes, no.
Thank you.
Tom has a program that line funds that is upgrading outdated, different parts around town of different buildings. The buildings maintenance is more your recurring expenses. And so the facilities is more bringing the buildings up to where they should be. After
Right,
them.
again, though, on that,
We will
I'm
get.
kind of looking for a breakdown of what the 110
Absolutely,
is.
yep.
Thank you.
It may be helpful if you just identify the number too for the other people in the audience, if anybody who's following along. There isn't confusion,
Okay, yep.
not on you, us. Cliff.
Yeah, so you mean on the maintenance was a 7,400 maintenance facility?
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
just
the-
to identify.
Right, and the
line.
7401 was the buildings, last two lines on page 32. And I take it also with the snow removal, obviously this was, like you were saying, with the, with the gas, this was already.
Right, we don't suddenly
Exactly.
budget huge amounts for snow removal. We just deal with it.
Any other questions there for Public Works?
I don't think so, Mona.
Alrighty,
Thank you.
kind of jumping all over the place here, so.
Okay.
Did recreation, we did Public Works, we haven't touched on. Building official. No, that's gonna be, it's a very small department and there's really not a lot of change there, but we will look at it anyways. That is 1036. Yes. Department 1036, that's gonna be page 18 in the budget. It's total increase of 3%. Really primarily driven by the wages and benefits. Only other very small changes are some adjustments to the supplies and equipment line. They're down at the bottom. just to bring them up to what we're seeing for historical usage over the past several years.
So would this be the department where we do we contract a consultant outside?
Yeah, and that's where it's reflected in the narrative. We're not looking at a budget change for this year, but I expect that by the time we are sitting back in these seats, we'll be running a different program in terms of how that looks and feels. We're looking at really addressing two things: having a more frequent building inspector, building official presence, and a more publicly engaged function. And so we're looking at different structures to do that. Our contract with Four Leaf runs through June 30th of 26. And so again, there's not necessarily a dollar change, but we are sort of looking at how we can reshape that programming. And we'll have more information over the next 6 weeks, I would say. The other track that we'd like to develop, and again, this is a wish as opposed to a concrete path, is to try to get back to a homegrown building department. That obviously starts at the inspector level before somebody can move up through those ranks. And I think we're open and entertaining not just a single person who works full-time, but bringing people in a part-time capacity if they're continuing to work and are willing and open to learning these building inspector functions, and working through certifications at the same time, so that we can sort of diversify our pool, and see if there's an interest and an opportunity to rebuild those functions locally at the same time we meet the building official needs that are currently ongoing. So I know there's a lot there. It's not necessarily a budget impact, but we'll continue to talk about it at this table over the next 2 months.
I like that concept. I like the idea that, I think what we were very fortunate with Mark, he was grandfathered under a lot of things. And the building is more complex than one might think for the building inspector, from licensing and so forth. I think the arrangement we have now, I think that I believe it's Chuck, but I think does a great job. And I think that it works out very well with permits following through and so forth. I do think that the other side of which I don't know if it's contracted that way, but the other side of the enforcement and of the things that are right in front of us, I think it's sometimes can be a little frustrating for everybody. And I'm glad to see you're working towards that. But if we get there, I just want to make sure that it isn't obstructed by funding. So if we need funding, I think this is the time. This is the time to look at it. I don't want that to be a factor that holds it back. I think you're on a good path. But I don't want to get to like June or July or September and say, oh, this is a great day, we don't have the funding for it. So I would support us, what it takes to make sure what you have forward is able to go to fruition.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I agree with that. It's kind of what I've been a bit of a broken record on. So if we need to allocate some money as a placeholder, I'm very supportive of that.
Agreed. The presence with Four Leaf right now is just once a week.
And it primarily is following up on active permits. Correct,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
So, I think it's those other things, which we all know from that end of it. And it's a hole we need to fill.
Yeah, I'll say it, we're lacking the enforcement end of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that covers all of the departments that we didn't cover yesterday. Let's see. I was wondering if we maybe want to move on to community support anyway, since we have some of the
Yes.
people here to speak.
I certainly would love that.
Okay. Who should we start with?
Go through them in the order they're in the budget.
Yeah. That'd be the medical center.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, Nettie Rose. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic.
As I'm rounding out my first year as the CEO of the health center, hard to believe already. Also coming into my first budget work session, thank you all. I wanted to make note of the fact that it's not lost on me that through continued collaborative efforts and support, being the town for financial support, the board for fundraising, as well as the revenues received for services rendered through the health center. This is how we're able to serve the community. The health center is an integral part of the community and offers not only urgent care services, emergency services, and continues to provide primary care services and expand our ancillary services to the community. And so with that, I want to thank you for the past support and the continued support of the health center. I am happy to go through data points from the deck that I've shared with you previously, or I'm happy to take questions.
My first one is, how's it going with attracting a physician? I see it's looking positive.
It's very positive. So we had a physician who's family medicine trained join us for 2 weeks, part of the snowstorm, which was great timing. So she was able to join us for 2 weeks,
Are you
and
sure he's coming back?
I hope so. And I'm happy to report that we're currently in contract negotiations with her. And should everything go well, I know that council has all met with her, as have our department heads from public safety and some community members as well. But if everything goes well, we are expecting to welcome the physician mid-May. They will do an onboarding for roughly a month and be ready for high season.
And then I just had one of the things I really have liked during my years, it was on the council, is I think your report is quite data rich, and I appreciate that. One of the things that I think would be helpful for me at least is to the extent that you can, getting a little bit of a deeper dive on the trauma visits. You know, where do they come? I don't mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot now. I just mean, as we go forward, I'd really love to get a sense of what particular things are driving those numbers. You know, when you have a 27% increase year over year, it really makes you kind of pause and say, gosh, you know, is it skateboards? Is it, you know, bicycles? You know what? I don't know. It just would, deeper dive on that, I think would be helpful to us.
I can absolutely provide that for you
Thanks.
going forward. Sure. We do know that trauma and injury constituted the leading cause of patient transports as well.
Yeah.
So we had approximately 200 rescues, and half of those were transported off island for additional services and care rendering. And in that, it was trauma and injury that were the leading cause of those transfers. So I'm happy to get, whether it be moped, bicycle, what have you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not even to pick on a particular thing, it just would help as you're talking about policy and thinking about stuff to know what those drivers are.
I had two quick things. One, I hear good things about this the rural health incentive. I think I just appreciate your work on that. And Molly couldn't be here. She had asked that I give an update on the I don't know, the PACE initiative.
So we are one leg of the PACE initiative. We're working with Allison Carley regarding the community center. So that's the other leg of it. And so we are ready to support the PACE initiative as far as medical visits go. I believe they had identified 5 or 6 patients that were eligible for PACE services. and we are fully prepared to offer those services as they're needed. So if the patient's sick, they're seen that within a certain amount of time. And really, if you look at our same-day visits, you see 1,700 patients called in 25. They were all seen same day. So we can get those 5 or 6 patients in. One thing that was a minor snag that we have resolved with the director from PACE was they wanted us to use their EHR system. And with that being said, it's very difficult to operationalize that. I have offered for them to be either able to data comb from our electronic health center system or for us to do a data transfer. So we're working on that. Otherwise, the health system's prepared to service those patients.
Okay, so they were able to do a workaround on that one aspect.
We're currently working on which avenue they'll use. So, yes.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yes. And as far as Rural Health Center, so for that site visit, we just completed that. We passed with flying colors. The staff did a significant amount of work there. So I did want to share that,
Yeah.
that is complete. Right.
Great. And I think we can maybe agenda another meeting. We can dive in a little bit deeper because I think there's some good benefits that the public would appreciate.
Absolutely.
Having that deeper dive once we get followed down the path that it's, that we're receive the benefits from it.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Tristan, any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Nitty Rose.
And I just wanted to note that the medical center's original request was 438,000, and what we have proposed is $420,472. That just brings it to a 4% increase, which is in line with what we're giving the other, what we're proposing for the other larger community support items like the school, the fire department, and the early learning center. Next, unless you have questions, any further comments about the medical center, move on to the fire department.
Hey, Chris. Hi. Make sure your microphone's on.
I believe we're on.
Oh, I thought you were going to that one. That was why I said that.
I leave that.
Sorry.
for Paul D. So we got our budget. It looks
Yeah.
like, what we put in for is on the line items there that has moved forward. Any questions on our budget?
Anybody? I do not.
You know?
'Cause I just think, Chris, one of the things that, a big item on this is the training that you've increased over the years. Can you
Mhm.
just elaborate a little bit? Well, obviously, the guys aren't paid for this, but I know some go to.
Yeah, so the training in the last year, so we got some guys, 3 guys going to Indiana. So it's a big conference out there. You sign up for classes, live class, firefighting classes and other stuff like that. It's a couple days you'll be out there. So you got your hotels and your air flight, et cetera. We're working on our fire too and hazmat on some of the guys that finished that up this year. We did an active shooting training with conjunction with the police department in the fall. So that was real good there. And then we have an extrication class with Providence Fire this weekend, Saturday. And then we have some more things coming together here throughout the summer and finish up into the fall.
And how are you doing as far as volunteers? I mean, for younger guys, that seems to be the biggest problem with a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, so we got a fairly good group of 20-plus-year-olds and we're able to retain them. The guys that are living here. So they're doing a real good job. And then you have the high school, like my son and some of the other guys, they'll come in and then they'll go to college and some of them come back. So there's a good handful there. So we have a good core trained group of about 18. And then you have the second wave that the guys that are always come, they've been trained in the past. And then if we have a large event, they're there. So I think we're pretty healthy. We're always looking for more members. open door.
I know like the rescue has a real difficult time because of, EMS certifications.
Right, so you got the EMT certification, and we are doing a EMR class, I think starting when?
April.
Yeah, end of April, so so people that are not EMTs are trained, not to the EMT level, but they're able to put hands on and assist EMTs, and I think, how many people 10
I think we have at least 10, maybe 12.
that are signing up for that?
They're
so.
not EMTs, they're a step down from EMTs, but they still have to adhere to the certification and recertification process, just like an EMT. There's just some change in what they can and can't.
That's something new for this year. That's a great thing, so. A lot of times we'd have people responding, but they didn't have the cert, so they could basically
Right.
drive and kind of maybe lift a stretcher, but now they can assist the EMTs.
So this is helping out, that gap that you had where you had just the handful. This is,
Yes, and some of the firemen are going through this class as well.
Good.
So they're not only gonna be tapped in as drivers, but then they can also assist us on scene with a patient, hands-on patient.
We've been speaking with the Southern League and the offer is there on holiday weekends, et cetera, that we could have two of them come over on the holiday weekends and support us also.
That's great.
Later.
Nothing else?
Nope.
All right,
All set.
okay.
All set? Tristan, good?
Good.
All right, guys. Thank you.
And just to note that the fire department's request was $304,700, as well as 25,000 for their alarms, the alarm calls, and we funded both at that amount.
And I'll say the alarm calls were down a little bit, I think 20 to 25. So if that continues, hopefully that continues to trend down, then we can adjust that.
We're also looking at updating the ordinance by the end of June, which would allow us to start collecting on the nuisance calls. Working on that too.
And then we have nuisance calls and we're trying to work on those. There's a few out there that we're running there too often. So we're trying to adjust that.
Sure.
If we can get a rate structure on them. After so many calls, they can maybe be fined or something. So,
and
Like
the
I
idea,
said-
the idea behind that is if it's a nuisance call, we still compensate for that run. So it's costing us.
Yeah.
So this is a way that, that if there's a nuisance call and it's become a nuisance because they're not addressing the equipment, this is hopefully the incentive to.
And a
to
lot
get
of
that
times,
done.
so let's just say it was my business, Salty Dog, and I had people living upstairs and they're just doing all the wrong things, taking a shower, leaving the door open, the steam's hitting the detector. They're vaping in their rooms or maybe hairspray, et cetera, like that. So education is very important where anybody that has housing, because most of these people do not know. And most of them don't even have fire alarm systems from where they may come from. So if I have gone to the Spring House and a couple other businesses and lay this out on the line and explain it out. And if it goes off and you look up and the detector's red in your room, please tell us. So we're not going through 25 rooms.
Right.
So that seemed to help a little bit. And I want to continue doing that this year to the ones that are a problem. Try to get those numbers down.
But our current ordinance is that correct?
It does, but there's not a firm process around it,
Sure.
which is then compounded by the aged and obsolete RB Allen system. So the transition to the new head end on fire alarms, along with some changes to the ordinance structure, will hopefully reset that entire process.
Great.
Right. And I think the thing too with it, we don't want nuisance, we don't
Yeah.
want fines. We want people to comply.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I update Amy, I did it after last summer and highlighted the ones that we're having problems with. And it might even be a phone call saying, hey, this is getting a little bit, can you please work a little better at it and
Sure.
educate them also. And that might just be enough.
It's an
right there.
education fee. It's not a fine.
Yeah, right.
But plus you have enough data now for us to go back and take a look at it. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you.
Can we do learning center since Julie's here?
Learning Center?
Oh, when I had a presentation I was able to share, I share my screen. So that's my press request. Work?
How are you, Tommy?
Hey, Tristan, how you doing? Well, hello everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Thomas Wheeler, representing the Block Island Early Learning Center. And thank you for saving the best for last. And excuse my jitters, this is my first town hall meeting. I recently became the treasurer of the ELC, not only because my daughter is a student, but I'm a financial auditor specializing in not-for-profits. So I thought this would be a great way to help the school and, as I'll talk about, our greater community. So to lay out a bit of a roadmap, I want to talk about the mission, the school's place in the community, our historical figures, our fiscal year 26 projections, and then the why. So to start with the ELC's mission, it's about providing high quality, affordable childcare to the island children, because even though everything we're going to talk about, it's all about the kids. So to start off with the community, the ELC is a Rhode Island licensed preschool run by a Rhode Island licensed and certified preschool teacher. We represent 21 families and 25 children, and those families represent these essential workers up on the screen. We offer preschool Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Fridays, 8 to noon, closely aligning with the Block Island Schools schedule, as well as an enrichment camp 9 weeks out of the year. And taking a step back, the ELC isn't not only just a school for the kids, but it's an entry point for year-round families for our island. The median age of Block Island, according to the 2023 census, was 51 compared to the national average of 39. We are losing households, both non-family and family. So in the environment of facing an aging population, declining year-round families, this leads to a limited labor pool, further compounded by without childcare, young families may not move here, existing families may leave, and parents may be unable to work, which highlights the importance of early childhood childcare. The childcare we provide retains employees year-round, reduces absenteeism, and every family we serve represents a worker retained and a business staffed. And in the current environments we face, an investment in the ELC is not just an investment in the school, but an investment in human capital infrastructure. But like I said earlier, what's this about is the kids. And studies have shown early childhood education is foundational for cognitive development, with some studies having 80% of brain development within the first 1,000 days of life, which the ELC is the only program during that time, providing this essential service to Block Island's children. The ELC also allows for early identification of extra services some children may need at crucial development stages before moving on to Block Island School, helping them out as well. Now, to take a look at the historical finances, including fiscal year 2025, I performed a bit of a flux analysis. I know that's a lot smaller. I was expecting it to be a little bit bigger. I wanted to do a few call outs. So the items in yellow were kind of outliers, grants, COVID stuff, kind of non-indicative of our operations, while the blue represents the ELC's core operating activities, things that we have actual influence over. And again, sorry, it's pretty small. But if you look closely, especially at camp, the tuition, there's some crazy fluctuations, and that is because the ELC is on a cash basis, not an accrual basis. So the year-end cutoffs do kind of throw things out of whack, which is why I wanted to compare fiscal year 2025 to that 4-year average instead of just fiscal year 24. Starting off with revenue, the ELC was up 8% with operating revenue, largely attributed to a huge increase in fundraising. It's a big push we've been trying to do. Parents have been doing really great, up from around 4,000, if not less, to almost over $14,000. Operating expenses are only up 3%, fiscal year 2025 to the 4-year average, which I can tell you, I do this for all my clients for every engagement. That is tremendous. Julie really does run a tight ship, and my hat's off to her. We did have a $12,000 operating profit, which is up 130% to that 4-year average, but with a net income loss of about $3,500 last year. So moving on to fiscal year 26, again, starting off with revenue, we do expect non-tuition revenue to go down about $30,000. That's because of those one-time contributions talked about earlier. So that really is taking a nosedive. Tuition revenue is also going to come down a bit. We expect about $4,000 just from our expectations for enrollment for next year. But we're trying for a big push in fundraising, increasing that 30%, and we really hope to achieve that. Expenses, office and miscellaneous and building expenses, again, pretty stable, larger uptick than the 4-year average. Julie could answer the questions better, but those are mainly around insurance premiums, accountant, kind of things out of Julie's control, even though I know she fights tooth and nail. She's telling me she's trying to get the premiums down, and I believe it. But the key driver to the $27,000 net loss we expect next year, is due to personnel costs. As you know, the ELC separated from the school quite some time ago, but what you might not know, what we didn't know, was that our preschool teacher, Tracy, lost her town pension when that separation happened. And Tracy has spent 25 years dedicating her life to the children of Block Island. My daughter comes home from school every day and talks about Tracy like she's her best friend. And I'm sure the same story is true for the hundreds of other children that have gone through our doors. So when we found out about this and it was brought to our attention this year, the board decided we needed to right that wrong, which is why we're asking for an increase to the additional 4%. But to sum everything up, an investment in the ELC isn't just an investment in the school, it's an investment in the greater community. From a bolstering workforce to trying to grow and retain the missing demographics we're facing, but to the children and providing them the best possible start to their future. And to kind of put things in perspective, 2% of the Block Island Schools budget would allow us to offer free tuition. Of course, we're not asking for that, but it goes to show that, well, the point I want to make is that funding at this age group is arguably the most important, especially given the majority of our students do move directly into the Block Island School. But unfortunately, the ELC has some hard choices ahead. With fundraising and enrollment exhausted, the board will be forced to increase tuition rates next year to cover those losses. For the future of the school, so future generations do have the ability to have this resource. And unfortunately, this, as we've had surveys done, this increase may cause our schools to become out of reach of some island families. But in conclusion, thank you for your continued and generous support to the smallest of our island residents. And there was a bunch of quotes up on that screen before, but let's hear one from them. Thank you.
Thank you, man. That was terrific.
I had a quick question for you. Molly, we couldn't be here, and there were two things we asked about Grace. One, are you currently doing the afternoon childcare?
Either through to 3 p.m.? Yes.
Uh,
I'm not sure about enrollment. I had to defer to Julie on that one.
are there kids, are there people in it this year?
Yes.
And then the other question was, I remember last year we were here, they were talking about the board rewriting the bylaws and stuff. Has that been done?
There was some additions to the bylaws around some parents being unhappy with some of the policies, but we kind of addressed those because they kind of made Julie, the director, Julie in this case, kind of made out to be the bad guy, and they kind of had to have the final say, which is kind of unilateral. So we did address that, and now any major decisions regarding like, oh, I want a refund for this, I want to leave, I don't want to be penalized, that will now be presented to the board, and the board can discuss and, make a fair decision.
So you're in a better position than you were last year as far as
Governance?
I would say so, yes.
Tom, can we get a copy of that? Would you
Yeah.
mind sharing it with Keisha?
Oh, yeah,
Just, just so we can go back through some numbers.
absolutely. And I do have an Excel with all those numbers that I could also share.
That's okay.
Oh, just, okay.
Thank you,
Oh,
Tom.
thanks so much, everyone.
Appreciate it. All right, Mona?
Okay, and just to circle back there, so the Early Learning Center's original request was $174,965. And what is proposed is $147,576, which reflects again, the 4% increase that we talked about for our larger community support items.
Mhm.
Let's see, who is next? We have, well, the North Light's been waiting for a while, and they're not even on this page because we moved them. So, but come on up and if you'd like to. So
Hey,
we
Rob.
moved North Light to the admin page, and we touched briefly on them. And that is going to be on page 10.
Hey, Rob.
Hello. So the number you see there is what Tom submitted. And what I actually came for and what we need most of all is we need to augment our power system with a solar panels. And I asked last year, and I'm asking again this year because the current system, the inverter is 33 years old. It's getting near the end of its life, but it is still functional and it's adequate for our needs. Now, our battery bank is at the end of its life, meaning instead of running 12 to 16 hours a week, it's up to 18 to 20 hours a week. So it has to run more and you're burning more fuel. So it gets to the point where in a $10,000 battery bank, you just replace it and you make it in fuel savings. So if we got the solar panels, we could delay replacing the whole system. And I think it's a good thing to delay it because technology is changing so quickly now. The cost of the new batteries are coming way down. So if we can delay it, so if I can get the solar system to augment the generator, to cut down on the runtime, and we can delay it a couple of years. And I also came across on Clerkbase, and this is for Revolution, and it's the grant one. And I think, I haven't spoke with Amy yet, but I think there's some work that could be done on the first floor, and maybe the replacement of the inverter and batteries and might be eligible under that.
Mhm.
So Shirlene's going to make an appointment so I can speak with Amy.
Great. How much are the solar panels? Just curious.
I can hear you.
How much are the solar panels, Rob?
They're really not that
I
expensive.
know, that's what I thought.
Well, believe it or not, the electrician's the most expensive part.
Right.
I told Tom I'd be willing to do the foundations for him. And that's what I was gonna recommend, that the town buy the equipment and then just hire the electrician to do the hookup. Because now when you buy the racks for them, you get an engineered design for the foundation, so it's, pretty straightforward. The only delay is because, CRMC is sent, and then historic preservation has to sign off of it, so sighting's gonna be. But we actually have a really good location. It's tucked below the dunes where it's out of the northeast wind. And if we do a 4 or 5 kilowatt system, the generator time would be cut to almost nothing. Because right now, because it's not occupied, it's only seasonal. It's the heating system, and in the summer, it's the pump for the bathroom.
Right.
And so, it's actually good. We can delay it. Like I said, prices are coming way down, and hopefully we can come up with a design and apply for the grant, which has to be in by October. So
Great.
we have plenty of time.
Terrific.
So Rob, or Amy, there's the two lines. So the solar that Rob's talking about is that on that $25,000 line?
Didn't Tom put in 100 and,
That's on the capital tax side,
well, that's what I thought we were talking about.
isn't it?
I don't have those materials
Right.
specific to a solar request.
I get
So-
I guess my point was the money for things like, if that were included, it would go on the capital tax line, not in the administration budget.
Right.
If it's of that scale, 125,000, yes.
So what's before us right now, though? So there's a line that says the 5104 says wages, and last year, I think.
Right.
we
So
So
spent
that's the
1.2.
operating.
Right, so that's just going to be the general operating
Yep.
expenses that are
Right.
recurring with level funded from last year. And then as well as the staff that they have there. Same staffing from this year.
Right, and the reason it's 14, because we still have a few months till July for us to add to that, so.
Yes.
So with this amount of money, will we be able to keep it open the amount of hours that we want?
That
They've
the
requested.
board requested. Mhm.
The limit is always on the staffing,
Right.
getting the bodies.
One thing we're doing there this spring is we're having the first floors refinished. So that's why there's still money in the maintenance line item. I've been working with Tom on that. We actually, let's see, 5 years ago, I replaced the generator. And over the years, the west dune had blown over and built up around the generator building. I had to dig down to open the door.
Yeah.
Well, it also allowed rodents to get in, and then it burned up the generator. Well, Mike and Tom got a Bain to go out, and we put the grade back to where it was 30 years ago, and we haven't had any rodent activity at
Oh,
all.
good.
So that's what I thought, because it was grass right up to the building
Sure,
when they were
yeah.
coming in. So that's one thing we did. It was late fall, we did it. And we moved over close to 100 yards of material. So that's how much. So now when you go on the west side, it doesn't have a big blowout hole. It's eventually going to migrate back, but if we keep it maintained like that, it'll be better for the generator.
Great.
And one last thing, and this is just for your information. The commission's been, struggling with how they want to proceed as far as, and I said, I think what we need to do is start from the beginning, because the North Lake Commission is in the ordinances. The original was in 1974 or so, but it was revised in 1989. And that's before town manager, facilities manager, public works director. So I don't know, should it come from the council with input from the commission and the manager, being it's an ordinance?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something I think we need to work on.
Great. If,
Um,
if they see something that needs to change, they should, talk about it, talk to Amy and recommend it to us. We want to, I think, I hope we're demonstrating that we feel like that is, vital piece of Block Island's current and its history. So we're open to all that stuff, Rob.
Well, it's mainly to define the roles and
Sure.
responsibilities and, I've been working with Tom. We get along great. And, anytime I can help him out, I do. And eventually it'll transition over, actually gonna teach Mark Valancourt how to
Oh, great.
service a generator.
Mhm.
Said, Mark, when I started, it's been 35 years. I don't know if you know that. The first generator was 28 years and it had close to 15,000 hours when we replaced it. So that's a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
And if we can go to switch to solar now, the new panels are a lot more efficient. And, you don't want to get it too big. You want to keep it low. And I think we'll be good.
Great.
Oh, just one last thing for information. Oh, it must have been 3 years ago. I was contacted from a woman. She's a trustee in New York from Oldfield, and they're getting ready to do their lighthouse. And she initially wanted information on listing a building on the National Register and how to do a RFQ for architects because they were looking to do work. So I didn't hear anything from her for 2 years, and I finally got a hold of her again. Well, since I talked to her last, it's not only listed on the National Register, it's listed on the State Register, and they've hired an architect. So I'm going over next week sometime.
Great.
Out of all the lighthouses, it's the one that's most intact. It still has all the wood in the lantern room, and so I want to go over and document. So when we get to the point where we can restore ours, we'll
Yeah.
have something to base it on.
That's great.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Robbie.
All right. Is anyone from the visitors center here?
Oh.
Hi.
I can start with the visitor center.
Yeah.
So this is really a continuation of the program we implemented last year, which talks about the visitor center as a shared responsibility between the Tourism Council, the town, and the chamber, with the chamber handling a lot of the administrative aspects in terms of allocating a portion of their staff and the space down in the hospitality center. I don't know if any of you were able to drop by and see their renovated space. It really looks fantastic. And so the funding request for 27 continues that split. I believe the ask into Tourism Council was for 34,000. The ask of the town, and they're considering that right now. The contribution from the town is 25 in direct appropriation and 10,000, which is the rent offset. So a total support of 35,000. And then the chamber would contribute the rest. And we're seeing now regular financials that allocate costs across the visitor center. So those are clearly identified. And there's not a commingled set of accounting between visitors and chambers. So I feel like that has finally, it's not a new concept anymore, but something that has some traction and some history, and we can actually go back and look at those expenses over
I
time.
told you this is the one that's going to make you eligible for the Nobel Peace.
Well, the best part is it's not just me, it was a team, so. But I would highly recommend that we continue to support that function.
Yeah, no, just thanking that.
Come on up, Ann.
So I'm Ann Salinas. I've been working at the chamber since October, but I've just been named the director, so excited for that, yes. So I think going forward, the partnership will be and continue to be good, and our total budget's actually less this year because we had the costs, or for next year because the costs this year for the renovations, which
Sure.
were
basically complete at this point, except for the outdoor part. So, but we're hoping to do more, continue to improve it. And, we're open year round and staffed with a few tourism ambassadors throughout the summer. So we have hired, or we're recruiting for those now and expect to have a good season. So,
Well, congratulations, Ann, and thank you for being willing to do
Okay.
it.
yes, thank you.
It's great stuff.
Right, so there's an item that inadvertently did not make its way into the proposed column, and that is the Domestic Violence Center of South County. They sent a request for $3,500. And we have it in the requested column, but I failed to carry it over to the proposed column. So I'm hoping to just add that back into the next version unless the council has any other thoughts on it.
At 3,500.
3,500, yep.
So
And that appropriation has fluctuated over the years,
Yes.
depending on the flexibility of the budget and the tenor of the council, but it generally ranges between 1,000 has been the minimum that we've put forward, and that's been for quite some time, up to 3,500 in some years. So,
so that's,
within that space
yeah.
is,
and that's something we can also touch base with Allison on also. If when we refine this budget, if we're short, whatever, there, we can maybe do an adjustment from there. But I'd kind of like to have her input if we are to make a change.
Mona, do you know what her recommended support level was?
It was
It was
3,500
3,500.
originally. Yeah, she had it over in her budget. I knew it lived over here. I took it away from hers and I didn't move it over here. So she requested 3,500 also. And when the chief noticed that it wasn't showing as being funded, he was concerned because he's a big supporter of it and he finds there's a lot of value and use of the services.
Yeah. I had a question about the mini grant program. Do we expect that there will be ongoing external support for that program?
We certainly hope, and we think that the donors were pleased with the outcomes.
Say no more. Just
Can't commit on their behalf,
no.
but
I understand. I understand. I just wasn't sure whether the number contemplated our hope for ongoing.
it's certainly
Yeah.
our hope, yes.
Will we have as time?
Bill, before
Oh, sure.
we would welcome others who wanted to step forward to also do that.
Yes.
They were extremely generous and very nice of them. I didn't know if there was an indication that there would be another donation this year, or if we would know that as we go a little bit further, because that would certainly have
I think we'll know that as we go a little bit
Okay.
further. They're currently collecting and digesting surveys. We're not quite at the end of the period, but they're doing starting the postmortem. And so I think as we work through that process, concurrent with the budget, we may have a better sense of whether the support would be at a consistent level or reduced or.
Great. Terrific.
we have the Coast Guard facility.
Yeah, we have the Coast Guard facility. We just have level funded from the prior year. And you can see that it supports the numbers, the averages across multiple years. That tends to fluctuate if there's maybe a large unexpected expense, it may drive the number up in one particular year, but we felt that that was a reasonable number to support just the annual recurring maintenance costs.
Why does that go in community support? I know.
But since we're moving things willy-nilly.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, not willy-nilly. You're moving things in a coherent way, in my opinion.
It could, in theory, go to Public Works. At the same time, I think the town across the board needs to think about whether its housing programs in aggregate need to live somewhere together.
Yes.
So I would say we're still working on what that might look
Yeah.
like.
I mean, it makes not a difference, but it's just,
It's starting
there's
to not fit.
Yeah, there's not a lot of parallel between you know, two important things, the Domestic Violence Center of South County and what we do on Coast Guard Station to repair the bedrooms, you know.
And what does that, is that like fuel? I mean, what does that
That,
number represent?
it's mostly utilities, power bills for both the main station, the Coast Guard Station pump. So it has a couple of different power bills that are paid out of that. The motor pool. And then, yeah, fuel, some phone lines, internet, basic utilities there.
The chief's house, is that the utilities in that, is that borne by the
But tenant,
tenant? And this, so I think, so it's clear to everyone, there's the Coast Guard Station, the motor pool is the garage area where the state police also stay, correct?
and so there is some offset to this expense with the revenue we get for the rent.
Right.
I think people tend to forget too that the boathouse is there, which is a pretty significant functional facility for the Harbors Department. If we ever didn't have that space for them, we would need to create it.
So, but this is more the operation. This isn't like replacing doors and stuff.
No,
That's, okay,
This is keeping the lights on.
gotcha.
All right, I think we've covered all the items on community support. Capital?
I guess on the Harvest Department's doing all of their maintenance in the boathouse, correct now? That's where they're living.
Yep.
It's an incredible building.
Next, we are taking a look at the capital budget or the capital tax budget. So our larger capital projects for the town. And it's showing a change of 86%. That's not really something you can rely on, like when you look at departments change from year to year, because it is dependent on what kind of projects are needing to be funded. And so in regards to the specifics for the projects,
Before we get into detail, can I do a little more?
I was hoping that you would, you're much better at summarizing these things.
So for the first time in my experience, this capital budget is above $1 million, which is a milestone that has been a priority for a very long time. So I would really be thrilled if we were able to maintain that. That significant leap is still just, I don't want to say bare bones, but it's still just barely meeting our real investment and capital maintenance needs. But hopefully this takes a big leap forward. In terms of process, so the planning board did review and approve the capital plan as being consistent with the comprehensive plan. That's part of our ordinance and part of our process. And then for the first time this year, we also reviewed the capital plan with the Coastal Resilience Committee, which is not a requirement of the ordinance, but it was a way to look at and talk about a framework for evaluating this long-term planning with that resilience worldview, and not necessarily sea level rise resilience, but sustainability of the community and how do we build things for the long term, and starting to think about making sure we're evaluating projects in that context. So that was a very new discussion for us that hopefully will develop into a more formal program going forward. So now we can talk specifics. Mona, do you want me to do that? Yes. Okay. And so these again are going to be the parts of the capital plan that are funded through the tax base. We're going to have a second conversation about capital items that are funded through other funding sources. But we'll start with these first. So recreation, Ball O'Brien is the first line, and we're just going to go top to bottom from page 25. $25,000. This is a partial replacement of some of the playground equipment, not 100%, but particularly those pieces that are most aged, as well as the wood chips and the underlayment for that space. Harbors Utilities is the second line with a funding level of 65,000. This is two parts to it. One is the continued replacement of pedestals. We've talked about that. We knock off a few every year. We've been doing $25,000 at a time, which is usually 3, as well as lighting replacement. So big lighting, overhead lighting in terms of lighting poles and the wholesale lighting replacement in Old Harbor, as well as adding a security camera down there. Obviously, that's a negligible cost relative to the poles.
This would be all the docks down there, wherever it would be, so include everything from the bait dock to the.
Everything from the bait dock around to the old bait dock. And so that's pretty needed at this point. The next item brings us back to the Coast Guard station. This is the most significant element to the capital budget for this year. $365,000. This is year 1 of 3, and talking about implementing finally that interior renovation program. In theory, you talk about it in 3 floors. In reality, it may not be that neat. You may want to do all of the flooring at once. They're working out the sequencing of that plan and the bid packages now, but they feel pretty comfortable with the estimates that have been put forward, that they can do all of that interior work for $365 a year for 3 years. And this would be down to the studs and replastering, reflooring, painting, and really doing the interior of that building.
I'm not in favor of that, but will there be some type of breakdown of that 365? And I'm not saying, okay, 4 windows or whatever, but enough so that
no windows, but yes, we can give you a breakdown. It's subject to bid, which we haven't awarded, we haven't gone out to RFP yet, but yeah.
And I understand the bid will change it somewhat, but I think in the past, there's been a few projects, including we've done, here's the set of funds, and come back, whether it was building a house or whatever it might be. I much prefer to say that, hey, look, these are the funds and this is what we're expecting to have, with the full knowledge that, when the bids come in, we may have to take out a door or whatever it might be from that end if it's some adjustment. But so there's a clear expectation of exactly what we're funding.
Sure.
Thank you.
We'll bring that back next week. The next item, $100,000 New Harbor dredging. You heard the harbor master describe this a little bit last night. So this is year 2 of a 2-phase project, moving from surveying and then through the execution and post-survey of inner harbor dredging. This is up to the boat ramp. And then other areas may get done when private owners are electing to piggyback on that project. So she's coordinating that. You look confused.
Did Kate have some dredging in her budget also that we talked about?
She does. So Old Harbor dredging is in the operating budget, because Old Harbor dredging doesn't last us very long. It is not a capital expense. You have to do it every year. New Harbor dredging, because it hasn't been done in so long, and the majority of the cost is really around the permitting, the planning, the surveying, and the figuring out how to do it, as opposed to the actual execution. That's why that's over in capital. If it became something that we were maintenance dredging on an annual or biannual basis, that will start to live in the operating side.
So this 100 isn't necessarily for the physical dredging itself. This is the administrative work and X, Y, and Z that needs to be done.
Yep.
In order for it. So I guess my question would be is, once you do this work that needs to be done, there's usually a time frame that you have for it to be done.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to do this work and then not have the funds to implement it, and then some of this work, we wasted that money at the end of it. So will we be able to, if we come out with if we approve this and we say, okay, it's $100,000, we end up with the engineering, the design, and they say, okay, now the dredging itself will cost another.
So the dredging itself should fit into this. Again, there's funding in the current year that we are using right now for that engineering, for the preliminary work up through the permit. And so this is the second part. And so our engineer has put together this estimate as he believes will support the rest of the project up through execution and post-survey.
Okay, so I apologize. So I was a little confused. So the $100,000 is for all the physical dredging also?
Also.
Okay. I just want to make sure we have enough to,
Ye-
I don't want to have we got the approval, don't have the money to do it. I want to make sure we fund both of it.
Yes.
So that we can
We
execute. it.
put, if I recall correctly, $50,000 in the budget last year.
Yep.
And so that's what's being used for all this planning, permitting, et cetera, probably plus some portion of this 100 would be.
Right. Because we didn't know if
Yeah.
part two was going to be 50,000 or 300,000. And so we're in now part two, the recommended funding level is 100,000 to get all the way through the end.
And so are we, on the dredging, are we talking about, what area are we talking about dredging for that?
The channel from Paynes to the boat ramp.
Okay, yeah,
Again, people may see other work done at the same time
sure.
where private owners are piggybacking on their spaces. But the part that's the town responsibility is just that channel from the
As
boat
someone who
ramp.
brings a boat through there, it's gotten.
It's
critical.
thin
Yeah.
from the boat ramp to Paynes.
I've been through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
But so the Army Corps, they do the main chain, correct?
Exactly. They do not come past Paynes, past that.
Pains on, that's basically on us at that. end.
Yep.
Great. And I think obviously if we can piggyback on the mobilization is the big cost. So if we can piggyback with others that are having dredging done at that time.
Exactly.
then-
Everybody wins.
Exactly.
Next item down, police vehicle. This is replacement of one vehicle. They do have some offsetting donations. I guess I do want to be clear that their request was for two vehicles for a total of 105. We're not supporting the funding right now for a second one. We've put that off a year.
Do you know how many vehicles we have, Amy?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll bring it back.
Okay, thank you.
I do know, which you've all heard before, we are back in where that space where the older ones are getting very expensive and need to come off the road. So, moving on from there, health services emergency generator. This is an after the fact item. Bear with me a second. For the new generator that was installed at health services, you recall that was done partially with ARPA, partially with health services funding. When that was spec'd and installed, it did not include the addition of a load bank, which when we went to service it the first time and do its annual work, became clear as a recommendation from the vendor that that was really going to be something that would extend the life of that generator. So that when it's exercised, it's not drawing, right now, without the load bank, it's not drawing enough load to burn off the wet stacking. You guys are all going to correct my
Look at you.
words here.
Actually, I'm not gonna correct you. I'm gonna ask you, could you explain what load bank is? Because I don't think,
Okay. Anyone else can jump in here if they don't know better, but
in layman's.
so basically, when you are exercising that generator for just a short period, once a week, it is, and given the size of that generator, which I think is a 350, it is not generating enough heat and enough power to burn off all of the residue that's produced in that exercise. And so this load bank is attached to the generator. It forces it to take on additional load in that weekly exercise and then burn off any of the chemical residues that might otherwise be left behind and deteriorating it more rapidly.
Sounds good to me, yeah.
You had me at, we need to do this.
I will say we're asking some harder questions to make sure it is absolutely necessary. Obviously, that's a large amount that was unexpected. If there is a different avenue, I will bring it to you throughout this process, but the answer today is we need to do this if we want to prolong that life.
I guess my question for the vendor would be that, obviously it's a good thing to do for the length. If it were to be, added to the generator in, a year or 2 years, does it still have its effectiveness? You know, the benefits to it. So at what point is it not worth adding it to it? Or, I mean, obviously the sooner the better, but if we didn't have the funds now, we might have them in a year from now, is it still something that's worth doing?
I can ask that question.
Great.
Moving on, recreation, Fred Benson Town Beach. This is getting into sort of a biannual funding level for that building to make sure we're doing ongoing capital maintenance. So both decking replacement and plumbing replacements as it's more aged are necessary. So nothing that's in a state of disrepair, but making sure we're actually doing it before we get to that point. Transfer station upgrades, we've talked about a fair amount. This is the $75,000 balance of funding necessary to complete that quote we have to repair and reskin the building. Again, if that funding is authorized in May, we'd be prepared to do it right at the very start of the summer.
I mean, this is we talked about the reskin for on that though, let's see. Requested 100, we have 75. Are we hoping that if the bid is over, we may have some funds left? Or do we think we can do it for 75,000?
We have a hard quote.
Excuse me?
We have a hard quote.
I thought that was higher than 75 though.
We have some additional funding in the current year
Oh, great.
that was meant to be for engineering and re-evaluation of the operational uses. We're really deferring that at the moment because we have so many other obligations relative to the capping and the slope. If we had an extra $25,000 or $50,000, we would keep working on that.
Okay.
But we're going to reach the limit of it, capacity in terms of attention and how much we can actually accomplish.
Great.
And with the capping and the slope, that's interior of the fence in the old dump area.
Yes. The capping is.
Right.
Slopes on the
Slope.
exterior.
So-
So both sides.
Do we know how many yards we still need?
Yes.
I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't need
But
to off the top of your head. but
it is
it's
in those-
thousands.
It's in the materials that Jim provided, and we can talk about it
Okay.
in more detail. Yeah. School lighting is next. This is $45,000. We talked a little bit yesterday and alluded to capital items that they can sometimes fund from their budget. And sometimes they do not have the extra fund balance to do that. This is an example where they didn't have the funds to tackle it themselves, but the gym lighting fixtures are obsolete and many of them have failed. And so the replacement of those is more expensive than you might think, because it's not just a matter of replacing the light bulbs. My sense from those who are in that space a lot is that it's getting very dark and there's not a lot of opportunity to wait on this.
Are they existing? Are they incandescent or are they LEDs currently?
I don't know, but I can find out.
I mean,
Would not surprise
anything-
me if there's savings associated with this on a long-term basis. Because those old gym lights, I think.
There's got to be
Basically,
some recommendation on the LEDs or
Yeah.
proper light.
Amy, on their fund balance,
Yep.
right, you've looked at that, right? And they have on their emergency reserve, which they, that 3.5%. And you know this much better than I, so feel free to jump in, of that 211,000 that they keep as that emergency that they only go into if they have to.
Yep.
Our remaining available fund balance is 168,258.
And they usually, it looks like it might have dropped out of their memo. And I'll double check with them, but typically that available fund balance, they have assigned to certain projects. So they already have a plan for capital work.
Have you seen this one? Do you have this one?
Yep. And so usually just under here, like I said, there's usually a table where they take that 168 and identify how the school committee has identified how they will spend that uncommitted fund balance.
Okay, because I know up top, if you look at, they also allocated the man lift, the mechanical lift, the
Yep.
8,000 and stage. So I just question.
So
I'll
the,
leave this to you.
yeah,
You're
I'll follow
aware of
up.
that, but if there's any room within that,
Mhm.
you know, that, and I know that you've been very good about fund balance in the past, so, I'll leave that to your discretion, but I do notice that there's a 168. I don't know.
Amy, I interrupted Tristan because I think he was going to ask about the lighting technology.
I was going there. I was wondering if
Yeah.
the LED and the longevity of it, but she doesn't have to, probably don't know that right this second.
I don't, but I can get it.
The other one really was the dump moving back up. The skidding, is it the entire exterior roof siding, new doors, or just, what do we, posts?
It was roof cap, the ridge cap. I don't believe there were doors. I do believe it was the exterior skin all around.
I believe it's the roof also.
Yeah, the roof
Yeah,
and
so
the ridge cap.
Yeah, right.
Roof, ridge cap, exterior skins, but not doors because I think we've
Yeah, I don't think
done
it
them
was.
recently.
Yeah.
Next is library building improvements. So this is, again, sort of moving their HVAC challenges forward in incremental ways. And that conversation we have internally quite often about whether there's a wholesale solution or whether it has to be the iterative fix this, fix that approach. And that's where we are right now, is chasing the challenges as we move from that digital system to back to analog.
I feel like we're kind of where we were with the generator at the school, where we kept throwing the money into it, and then eventually we had 20-something thousand into it, and then we abandoned ship and went the other way. So I guess, and I don't know what part, I guess this is where, Tom can provide us more information, but at what point do we say, okay, listen,
So this, one of the challenges we have in all these buildings, and you all know this, is when you talk about a wholesale replacement of a system like that, you wind up with a mainland vendor who comes in and puts it in and walks away. And we are then challenged over the next 10 to 20 years to support that system without the technology and the expertise. And so in a lot of examples right now, we are going back to much more manual and analog interior systems where we can find people to actually work on them. That's the reality of our challenge. It's getting somebody out here who can actually deal with the failures in a pretty prompt way.
so it would be more so it would be more paring down the design then.
Exactly. So we're undoing
Right.
all sorts of previously automated dampers and louvers and things like that.
And this was the problem we had at the school, I believe, right? It was controlled by the mainland and all this high tech, and the reality of was that the basic unit seemed to work. It was easier to work for us because we could locally maintain it.
Yes, but the challenge of getting that system stable
Right.
can be frustrating throughout the process.
But if they were to remove it and put in a new system from the ground level, they could put in that basic system, but it's a balance, right?
So we're struggling with that. I'm not saying that we're in the right place, but we're working on it. Northlight, we have alluded to a little bit. The funding for this item, which is in at $125,000, is from the Orsted program. So there's an offsetting revenue item. The first step of that is the conditions assessment master plan. We're working on the draft RFQ for that right now. And then once that conditions assessment master plan has been produced, then we use that as the basis for the RFP for implementation of the things that are in that plan. So it's a multi-stage process that we are still at the beginning of, similar to the resiliency consultant, Bill, to your question. The funding agreement awards those dollars at the moment that we are ready to execute a contract. So we're not in a gap or an uncertainty. The minute we're ready to award, they will fund
So you're
those
comfortable
dollars. Yeah.
Receive that.
Um,
And that's a full, the 125 is fully the reimbursement?
No, it's actually less, but we're not going to get through that full amount in the first year.
Gotcha.
The last item there is the comprehensive plan. This is still a number that's in play. We had 4 responses to our RFQ. We're currently evaluating those now. We have $60,000 in the current year budget. Across the responses, the low bid, again, these were RFQs with dollars. So our evaluation is on the qualifications, and then you consider the dollars as a secondary, but the dollars did range from 60,000 to I think 155,000. So we're awarding that probably at our April meeting. That'll help us refine what this number is.
Do you
60,000.
like the bidder, were you satisfied with the qualifications?
We did get some really good responses, and so I think we're actually making a choice, so which is great. That's always a good place to be
Right,
in.
exactly.
60,000 as a second year funding level is sort of a midway between those responses. So that's the capital tax supported through the tax base.
So you have a new line in here. It doesn't have any money associated with it, but TWR restoration, Mansion Beach TWR restoration.
So this was a request that was not funded, which is why.
Right,
it's sort of
yeah,
showing.
I'm just curious. what
It was a proposal put through Mike Shea and the highways team to further the restoration of the tower at the Mansion Beach property. So they've done so much clearing over the years
Gotcha.
to
Thanks.
start to.
I just couldn't figure.
Yeah,
out
what are we doing?
TWR.
Tower.
Thank you. Nothing further.
And we're just not ready to support that yet,
Okay,
but I'm sure
yeah,
you'll see it again.
Okay.
Mona, anything I missed on there that you want to go back to?
Just to note that the capital line for the library building improvements is really coincides with what Bob was talking about the last night. And it offsets that building expense, like with that, his building maintenance expense line is filled with replacing different parts, piece by piece of the HVAC and such. So I think it supports our reduction of that line over in the operating side.
All right, what else we got, Mona?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
While we're sort of in the capital vote, we probably would like to talk about capital items that would be on the warrant. So these are things that are within the capital plan, but don't fit into the budget because they didn't work.
Right.
The first one is the 3.2 million. we have West
Is there a page for this or you just verbally give it to us?
There's
Okay.
there's not a page in the budget document, but there's a page in the narrative at
Oh,
the
okay.
very end.
And
I'm down.
see this, thank you. You'll see this when we talk about the draft warrant.
What was the number again? I didn't-
3.2,
And that was for?
that's the landfill capping and slope. And when we look at that, I'll resurface the materials that Jim had provided earlier.
Great.
Would this be the last, completely finished at this point with the 3.5, or is there another portion?
Yes and no. You will, you will be finished with the capping, which is 20 years in the making. We will never be done with revetment repairs. That's right, the large stone. We are fighting nature on that. And we are currently required by CRMC to continue to repair that reinforcement. in the same way right now. Yeah, it doesn't mean in the future, they might agree to different solutions. But right now, the requirement is that we shore it up in exactly the same way that we did the first time. And that means that it will continue to erode in the same way.
You went through this with us before. There's a certain amount that we have to do.
Yep.
In order to fulfill our agreement, our obligation that we
There,
had.
yes,
Um,
we're under order by both DEM and CRMC.
right, and is that subjective as to the amount each year or what it might be? I remember you were pretty articulate about that eventually catches up with us, but this is the 3 million. Is there another, if that 3 million wasn't passed, what would happen?
We don't know. We don't.
You know, or if it was only half of it was, you know, I guess the question is if half of it was passed, what would happen if none of it was passed, you know?
I think it's helpful to think about the two projects somewhat separately. Thinking about the landfill capping first, that seems to surface from DEM every 5 years. How long it will take them to start an enforcement order and what that would look like, I can't say.
Have we done any of it since, when was the last time we did?
We've done all the testing that's been required of us throughout the process. There is nothing we haven't done. I can't quite speak to why all these parts weren't wrapped up then.
Is there any avenue for alternative or on?
Not at this point,
Right.
no. And so that's the similar response that we've gotten to the second project, the revetment. Right now, we have a permit from CRMC that says you will do this. What happens if we don't do it? That's not really written down anywhere.
Right.
In reality, you have debris resurfacing. And so the more that happens, meaning if you did nothing
On the outside?
on the outside,
Okay.
on the seaward side, the more that we do nothing and that continues to excavate, the more visible it becomes. And so, you know, eventually somebody will speak up, but I don't know exactly what that would look like.
And have we pushed this down the road, or is this just coming up now, or have we kind of like?
No, I think we knew when we first did the work, that the estimated life was somewhere between 10 and 15 years. You know, that was a rough estimate then, and that's about where we are. So.
And I guess the next question would be is if we decide to go that route, see what they do, meanwhile, it degrades, and then are we going to be looking at, you know, twice the amount, you know, from the other side to it? It's unfortunate because these things aren't fun things, just like the sewer main that we have to repair going out, you know, it's the stuff you don't,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's not a shiny.
Yeah, woo.
Yeah, exactly, you know?
Yeah.
And the big numbers, you know?
They're big
Yeah.
numbers, and they're only going to get bigger. You know, there's always that option of do nothing and see what people do, but
Right.
we'll have to think about whether that's who we want to be.
My concern isn't us being fined and them pushing us. My concern is, you know, you have a leaky window in your house, you don't take care of that window, suddenly you have a sill that's rotted.
Right.
So I think we really need the expertise to tell us, yes, we have the legal end of it, but we also have the reality end of it. Are we just, you know, are we creating a bigger problem financially? So.
That's on the landfill side, because there's momentum and there's agreement on
Right.
what that looks like of how you get to the end. It's not an open question right now. It feels like the time to get to the end. If we all agree where the finish line is, let's cross it and be done. On the revetment side, you know, there is some opportunity if you want to look for a silver lining. The state has done so much resiliency work that they can't change the state resiliency office can't change the CRMC assent. that is the requirement that we need to adhere to. But what they are open to assisting on is, what do we do today when we're implementing that solution to prevent being in the exact same place 10 years from now? So they are willing to talk about what kind of other solutions should be deployed concurrently to make that solution more resilient. That's in their wheelhouse.
So when you bring up the resilient with Judy and all that,
Yep.
are any of those grant funding funds available, or would they be able to be?
Not likely. If you recall, when we did this before, the town had access to a CDBG grant. Meeting those grant requirements at the federal level required some conditions that we cannot meet or would not be able to meet here. And so that's likely still the same answer that keeps us out of federal funding, because of some of the other elements that would be involved in meeting those requirements.
And that's what the funds that they currently looking at, right? And do you anticipate the same thing with any federal funds? We do, okay. That's unfortunate.
Yes. New topic? Okay. There's one other item that the fire department would like to consider putting on the warrant, and this is the replacement of engine 4. So it is part of our capital plan, and the chief can describe it a little bit better. But it's been in there for quite some time as a proposal for fiscal year 27. 1.1 is the requested funding amount. And this is an engine where we have actually got a spot in the build line. And you can describe that a little bit better.
Sure. So we discussed this about 2 years ago. The town gave us
Hey, guys. Thanks.
the authority to go ahead and get this truck built. So it's 1.1 million. Since we put the order in about 2 years, there's been about 15% in increases. We've been protected by that. So you have a savings right now of about $165,000 in savings over the next 2 years, or the last 2 years. If the taxpayers or the council would want to push this, we would have to start over. You'd be another 3 years out for a build slot. And probably you would double that, so you'd be about 300,000 plus more dollars for the same vehicle.
Okay, Chris, can I just get those numbers again?
Mhm.
You're saying you had a build slot,
We did.
and by taking advantage of the build slot, the price was locked in,
Yes.
okay? And what was that number?
1.1 million.
And if you were to purchase it today, right, if you went in now, you said the cost would be what?
It'll be 1.1 million right now. If we
had
6/18/27 delivery, it'll
Yep.
be 1.1 million at the time of delivery.
But if we went now and bought one.
If
it
we
would be
ordered it
100
today,
Yeah.
it's gonna be 3 years to get it done and roughly about $300,000 more plus. We've been protected from increases when we went ahead and put the order in.
Right.
300,000 more than the 1.1, you're saying?
Yes, sir. So we're hoping that it gets on the warrant. I think if it gets pushed to next year, we have the problem, but that's gonna cost more than be 3 years out. But also, you got a couple big items potentially coming up. You know, here, talk about school, a fire station someday. But I think if you keep pushing, the more expensive it's gonna get. The other truck, 23 years old. We picked it up 7 years ago. It has proven itself to work well for us, that we have 2 Class A pumpers. And I can explain why, but yeah, that's what we're looking at. So
And Chief, the intention would be to dispose of our current.
yeah, still the old 2003, that'll take all the equipment off that. We'll go on to the new one. And we probably, hopefully, and it doesn't always work out, but we can get some money for that truck. I think we have we paid about 2,000 for it, and I think we got another 20,000+ into it. We were having some talks today with the sales rep, et cetera. We should be able to get 20 for it.
And there's a place to put this, right? Because.
Yes, this old, it goes out, the other one backs in. Crickets.
I can't, I don't know enough about what you do and you don't need. You'll say you do need it, you don't, but I know enough about math to figure out and I'd like to have the town manager weigh in on this maybe at our next meeting.
Yeah.
About what the, if it's inevitable that it's gonna be purchased in, whether it be in 3 years or whatever it might be, I think it's worth looking at because of the prices going up, and I would.
And they're gonna continue to go up, and the build times are getting longer. The industry went crazy. I think a couple big conglomerates bought out all the smaller companies. So that jacked the prices and the wait times.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bill and I are going in the same direction here. I mean, I think we'll probably look back and say we're lucky to get in line. We'll probably, if we don't do this now, we'll look back 3 years and say, gosh darn it, why didn't we keep that spot?
And then we'll continue to we always put money in all our trucks, and a lot of that comes out of donated funds, like our budget today. That is pretty much half the cost, or 45% of the cost to operate the department. And we do have money from donated funds, and a couple months ago, we put a radiator in, inexpensive, it was like 12,000, and we've done other stuff, but when it needs it, we're gonna keep having to put money into this unit and the others. But this one, being the older one, and this one runs more runs than any of the other trucks on fire alarm calls. On a commercial fire alarm call is the one the guys like to take, because the short wheelbase, how it gets around town in the commercial district easier. So
I see.
they all grab that truck. It has the ability to carry 5 guys, which sometimes we have to go back and forth on that because they're afraid that other trucks will get left. But when you have the junior train members or members that are not quite there on driving, but they're at the station, they can jump in this truck and be ready, have the gear on, and
I see.
get out ready to go to battle.
Mhm.
Chief, I have concerns about a lot of things coming down the pike, whether it be, fire barn, a school, coastal station, a lot of expenses. There's some things that we're gonna have, whether it be police cars and fire trucks. The one thing I will say from the fire department end of it is, when we put money in, we're not putting money into salaries, benefits, and so forth. It's mainly equipment. We get a big return on that from that end of it. And that's usually where I kind of look at what we're getting returned for our value. If we had a fire department of 5 or 10 guys, we'd be having $1 million budget just in salaries from that end of it. So, I don't question you may and may not need it. I really want to look hard at those numbers and rely on.
Yeah, we continue to keep growing the fleet and keeping it up to date, and the community is growing so fast, and the call volume keeps going up, and we got to be there for their worst day. We got to be there with the best equipment we can have to do the job the best we can.
When's the build slot time run out?
Its delivery date is 6/18/27 at this time. That fluctuates every month.
But they're building it right now. I mean, it's in the.
It's not being built yet, but it's very soon. It takes about 65 days online.
To build.
Yeah, so right now they start ordering, generating parts
I see.
to get the stuff in, because a lot of stuff takes a long time to get for whatever reason. So they start generating the parts all there, so it's ready to go and be put together. So they're not waiting, say, for like a water tank, and it holds everything else up. So everything's there, ready to be put in.
Yeah, if the voters choose to fund this project, I mean, this is at least 15 to 20 years life expectancy, correct?
All of 20, yes, sir.
20. And then this particular apparatus was a backstop for when we were down.
Yeah, so 2019, when engine one, just so everyone understands, engine one had some problems. And it took about, I don't know, I'm gonna say 3, 4 months to get. And I reached out to Greenwood. I said, I need a loaner, you know? This came in, it fit the role real nice. And we purchased it and engine one got straightened out. And the department decided to keep this because they liked it so much and it did well for us. So we kept it. We bought it. They wanted to give it to us. And I said, no, we spent 2,000 on it. You know, so they treated us right. So it was right. You couldn't really pass it up. So it crowded us a little bit inside, but it's working well for the department.
Amy, when on the capital budget, on these, if it's a warrant and it's passed, it's not until you draw down, right, where it goes to.
Correct. And honestly, with an amount like this, it's just small enough that we tend to phrase the question that it could be a financing or out of reserve, so that if we happen to have excess fund balance, we can use that as well. You know, so it's right on that line of being too small to finance almost.
Right.
Right.
But yes, it does not hit the operating budget until later.
I definitely would like to talk about this next week when
And
we're
what's
meeting.
the fire department's available funds now on the books?
Tristan, I don't know. I wish Mike was here. I'm not sure. But we always have a pretty good cash reserve from donations and everything. And again, a lot of that helps us to support half of the operating budget. And if we need something to repair something, we're not coming here asking for it. We didn't see this coming. We have the money and we can do it.
Mhm.
You anticipated another 50% on top of your budget?
Excuse me?
You anticipate another 50% this year on that 300? Is that what you just said?
No, I'm saying that the operating budget with the town supplies, that 30, whatever it was, is about 45% of what it costs us to operate. That makes sense? Was that answer your question?
Wow. I'd love to see that factory where they make these things.
It's amazing.
I'll bet it's cool.
All set? Any more questions?
No, thank you, Chris.
All right, guys, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for sticking.
Anything else? Yes. Thank you. So we'll just touch on debt service. And last of the operating expenses. And the big change there, and it is, we're on page 26 of the budget.
Mona, I just had a couple of questions of Amy. Do you mind if I just?
Of
real
course not.
quick? Amy, when we went down that page, you said the West Beach Revetment on the public safety complex. I don't think, did you touch on that? And did I just miss it or?
I didn't. I did not. So relative to the warrant, you won't have questions regarding school construction or the public safety complex at
Okay.
the May financial town meeting. I do expect that there will be a presentation around the school, meaning they're going to take the opportunity of having everybody in the room to give an update on where they are and what that timeline is and how that program is developing. Not long, 3 to 5 minutes at most, but to give the community an update on that school project. So.
I think that's great. I think to do that, to plant the seed and everything. I also, these are two big projects coming up and, you know, I don't want to pit one against the other and so forth. And it's almost like you kind of want to give equal time to both, because I think people should know that they're both in the pipeline. And they both may be scaled way down from what they are. So I just don't, I wouldn't want the public to think, okay, this is the one that was ahead and the other one follows, you know, and I don't know the best way, but I think
I think we're trying to be sensitive to that
Right.
across all of the people that are working on these projects. And I think that starts with talking about them as much as possible, so that nobody is surprised or forgets about the scope of things that we need to be doing. And so I think when we do get to that warrant meeting, I'm going to have some additional supporting materials, and we'll talk about the things that are not on it yet
Right.
to continue to remind people of that context.
Yeah, because I think particularly when we're talking about those things that aren't the shiny coin, they're gonna be coming in, and all of this, I mean, these are big. Individually, they sound great, and it's an easy pill to swallow. But the fact is, you have to take all the bills,
Mhm.
and so the other problem is that on top of this, and I realize it's state money, not ours. That the I don't want to use her name, tax, whatever
The non-owner occupied
Thank
state
you.
property tax.
right, it is floating back there too. It's just a lot of things coming in at once. So, thank you for clarifying that. What's that?
So debt service, so you see a large change there for this upcoming year, and that's basically has to do with the school debt. We had the old 2006 bond come off the debt service, and then we took a $4 million bond with a 15-year maturity this year. So we see the full, the full cost of that for this fiscal year 27. 35% of that is reimbursable by RIDE, the principal and interest, so that helps offset the cost. As a total, the total debt service represents 19% of the total budget. If you take away some things that shouldn't necessarily really be counted in there, if you're comparing it to the town's budget, you take away the land trust, some state housing aid, and Thomas property rents, then you're more about 15% of the total budget. So Rhode Island general law caps the amount each municipality can have for bonds at 3% of assessed property values. And we are well within that range right now. And there's more details in the narrative. I can go over it if you'd like to. There's the two items that are authorized but unissued debt that we have still. That would be the $2 million bonds relating to the Housing Board O'Brien project, and then that were authorized last fiscal year, and then $1 million related to the acquisition of the pump truck. And I will prepare that
Thank you, Melanie.
graphic that you'd
Yeah.
like to see. That'll help give you a good visual of it. We getting tired yet?
I'm tired.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to add on here. And I really got a lesson from Amy and Mike LaFaro, actually. I realized there's how much debt we're allowed to have to our property values and so forth, or that we can. Because we can doesn't mean we should. Just like all of us have, you may have a Visa card and you may have a $20,000 limit, doesn't mean you want to be at that. And I know there's a number that works out that is recommended, so it still accounts for there being if there was a catastrophic event in the town and so forth. What I'd really like to see is, because with all these projects, what we can do looking down like a 10-year, look at our debt going down the 10-year, what we can absorb on some of these things. I just don't, a way that it can be presented on, with what's falling off. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know enough about it, but I know enough that it's not as clear. It's not as clear as one would think when you're talking, taking long-term debt and what we already have, and not if you're not looking, understanding what falls off and what falls on. So
That's the document that I asked Mona for.
yeah, right. But also that So, I mean, some of these things will dictate to say, hey, listen, if we want to have all of these pies, whether it be a school, this and that, is there a range we get into where we might be able to get all those? But I think you have to know what we can probably handle down the line with it. Does it make sense?
It does.
Appetite for it, yeah.
It's a very subjective exercise, like
Right.
we've talked about. And we can start with the maturity schedule as a baseline and then provide some guardrails from there to help people evaluate those subjective responses.
Right.
But the problem is there is no single right answer, but we can provide some ways to think about it that might be helpful in terms of capacity, potential capacity.
Yeah, and I think my goal is that we just have it's like truth in lending. We have a true, clear picture of, what we're looking at, from that end of it.
Yep.
Thank you.
So are we addressing revenue this evening? Do we need a 5-minute break?
No, I'd rather not break. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought we put fire in the park, just because that's like 3 separate pieces of equipment. I know it's just a line item, but
Yeah.
it is a little different because it's an additional piece of equipment. It's strictly a pumps, and then there's 2 other ancillary pieces of equipment with it. So, just one little piece of that.
Yeah.
And then, Chris was lucky, the fire department was lucky enough to get that spot, but now we have this piece of apparatus coming out of that.
So,
Working on other things, possible housing.
On the housing for the one that's coming, we hoping to have funding in.
I don't intend that the town would pay for the funding of that structure. If we can find a solution, I think that's the fire department's responsibility, and I've said that to them before.
Yeah, and we're talking.
Not a conversation for me.
Right. And I think with that last one, I think they said it was somewhere between 70 or 80,000, correct? And if, and I think this fund's available.
But this way, the town doesn't have
I'm not.
funding in its
not-
current budget.
Right.
So
Yeah.
okay, let's go through revenue. So we already know a big driver of the revenue, and that's going to make a big change will be the change in the hotel tax legislation and the application of that applying to whole house rentals. The council had asked previously for maybe a graphic that makes it a little easier to just understand that, the tax and then how much the town takes and that whole percentage. And so that's what I have prepared there. So, I mean, just on a very basic level right now, the state charges a 5% state tax on hotel rooms and a 1% tax on hotel rooms and a 1% tax on whole house rentals. What's changing and what did change January 1 is the 5% state tax will now be applied to whole house rentals as well. And the local 1% tax is applied to both. It is increased, it's doubled. So it's 2% now on hotels and on whole house rentals. So there's kind of a graphic of the before, the before and after. We've used projected numbers provided in the state proposed budget for the proposed numbers for 27. And yeah, and so let me go back to the allocation of that. So that 5% amount that state hotel tax and it's going to be charged on the whole house rentals, we are going to receive 25% of that 5%. The state keeps the rest and we keep all of the local tax, and now that's 2%. Do you have any follow-up questions on that particular?
So is that essentially why, I think we're going, say, I forgot the number, we're going up 8%, but it's only gonna be a 4%, local, in terms
Yeah.
of the tax bill, because you're anticipating the higher revenue?
It's definitely helping.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things driving it. I mean, the increase in the landing fees and, we
Yeah.
increased some harbors fees the year prior. Another thing that I was going to mention is just the conveyance fees also went up, that
Oh,
rate. And that's something that's driven by the state. By, I think it was almost 67%. Conveyance fees are also called transfer taxes. It's the percentage that somebody pays when they purchase a piece of property. So it's based on the sales. So that could be volatile, but overall the percentage that they pay has increased significantly.
So on the percent, the part that increased, do we receive that, the benefit of that increase, or is it earmarked?
Yeah, no, we received the
across the
benefit. I
board?
mean, there was another part that increased, but I didn't even go there.
Yeah,
So we
that's
don't get
fine.
any of it. Yeah, but so overall, people are paying more, especially if the property is more than $800,000, there's a whole nother bracket, but what we
That went
get
from 3 to 5%,
increases-
right? It was
increases
800,000,
every
anything over the 8 was 3%, and that went to 5%. And so we will benefit from
We will-
part of that
Yeah,
2% increase.
yes, we do. Overall, what we're going to receive, we're going to receive about 67% more. And that's already started happening. That happened starting in October.
From what we did last year,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Is the state pretty good about timely getting those funds out to you? So that within your budget year, or?
Yeah, yeah. There's with the hotel, and there's always like a lag about 2 months.
Okay,
That's why in your February financials, you won't even see the results of the change in hotel tax yet. But in March, you will. So, yeah, it's really what I don't love is not being able to see all the data behind the numbers that
Right.
they're depositing, but
are you?
we can see
are
the
you-
data on the conveyance fees because we, record everything.
So to that end, you don't see those, has it been questioned with people, or?
I've asked the state before if I
Right.
know there's data somewhere, I mean, they're getting the
Right.
numbers from somewhere, and if they could provide it, and they didn't, weren't able to do that, as it was.
So it's the
Yeah,
honest.
and I
the
think
honest
a lot of
system?
people want it, and so maybe it'll be coming in the future. I'm gonna give them the
Yeah.
benefit of the doubt. It's probably just an administrative thing.
Sure.
But we do track, the sales and hotel tax year to year, and looking for trends or any abnormalities that we would investigate if things seemed off. A lot of these numbers, the revenue are, driven by things that are in the proposed budget from the state. Trying to see what other major changes here. You see that I broke out the real estate conveyance fees because they were originally lived in I'm on page 3 of the budget, by the way, licenses, permits, and fees. There was a line item called other clerks, licenses, fees. And within that were the real estate conveyance fees, and they were so large, I felt that it would be important to pull them out of that and just leave other clerks licenses fees just for a collection of small fees that would go into that. Dog licenses, I think marriage licenses go in there. You can see it represents a much smaller percentage. So
That's a big number, that conveyance fee.
yes, it is.
Oh.
And obviously, that's all driven by who's buying and what they're buying, but
Sure.
yeah,
And that's probably in the last, since COVID going up, that's probably really increased because of sales, when things were flipping over, like
Yep.
there was no tomorrow,
Yep. And it is based on the sales price, so.
Right.
Let's see if there's other things. We already know the landing fees have increased, so we've increased that line item for the upcoming year accordingly. Other big swings, looking at our Thomas property rent, we know why that's happening. Got our looking at state aid page 6, and again, these numbers are that are dropped in the proposed columns that are what's in the state's proposed budget. The final gets adopted, I believe, by the end of June is usually what it is. So we use those numbers until we have those. You'll see the school housing, that's state aid, page 6, the first line, state aid school housing, proposed $201,055. That big change is just due from that debt service coming on board and the reimbursement that we get from RIDE.
So the state aid goes to us and we give it and we fund the school, right? No, it goes right to the school?
No, this is housing aid,
Oh, okay.
which offsets the debt service. We pay the debt service, so we keep the revenue.
Okay.
It's not general aid. That does go to the school.
Next page, page 7, we don't usually reflect the grants in the budget, but we wanted to be able to be sure to call out these parts of the Orsted agreement that are going to be offsetting other items we have in the operational budget, as we're talking about the North Light and over in the capital area, and then the coastal resilience consultant.
Is there a lot, I guess this would be for Amy, is there a lot of, on the Ostrich and for the, those grants coming in, is there a lot of heavy lift on the paperwork end of that, or has that pretty much been done, or?
They've actually been really good about doing that part of lifting.
Yeah,
So
okay.
providing agreements for us to review. And they seem motivated to keep the process moving.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful. Yeah.
So I went through that all kind of quickly, but I did cover the key, the biggest factors. Anything you want to add to that, Amy?
No, I don't think so.
Any questions from the council?
We'll have, you said Millie had put that on, another shot for that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
David? Motion to adjourn.